Hit him long, hit him somewhat straight. He could do that. He could drive, pitch, chip, putt. He could do it all. Gordie Smith, arguably the best golfer ever to come out of Nova Scotia, was a winner in an individual sport that's probably tougher mentally than it is physically for those with the athletic ability to hit that little white ball where they want and when they want. He won a ton of titles. He played college golf in the U.S. He earned a PGA card. He won satellite tour titles and placed 7th in the Canadian Open against talent that had been around for a while and some still playing on tour. He came from good genes. His dad, Lorne Smith, was a Nova Scotia amateur champion. Gord was on the Brightwood Golf Club course at age 10, developed through the junior program, and by 18 years of age had won titles in every age category, midget, juvenile, and junior. In 1981, he became the first player to capture the Nova Scotia Junior and Men's Amateur Championships in the same year, also capturing the Nova Scotia Golf Association's Golfer of the Year award that season. Peter Hope, a Hall of Fame member who won a bunch of amateurs in his time, is a Brightwood golfer who watched Gordie develop.
He always hit the ball long, because as a youngster he was quite tall, and therefore could develop a pretty good arc with his club, which in turn gave him pretty good club hit speed, and therefore that results in distance.
Bruce Walker, a golfer with a low handicap who always contended for provincial amateur championships, he knew Gordie Smith as a young high schooler.
He was still in high school, and I was sort of talking to him about his future even then in high school. And we went up to play Brightwood. And number 11, I still remember to this day, number 11, I hit a real good shot for me, like 220 yards. Just hit a 4-wood out, and Gordie hit an iron off the tee, and it went by my ball by about 80 yards. And I said, well, you know, he hit a 2-iron or something like that. So we're walking down the fairway, and I said, what'd you hit off the tee? He hit a 5-iron. And he hit a 5-iron about 245 yards. In those days, that's nuts. I mean, he was that good back then. That's the first time I knew he was that good.
You're watching any 10 or 11-year-old play, you can always see some potential in what they have. And Gordie had good breeding. He was the son of Lorne Smith, who, as most of us will remember, is sort of dominated golf in the 50s in this province. It certainly proved in years down the road that he developed that potential into being a first-class player.
Gordie earned a full scholarship to University of South Florida in Tampa, where he gained a Bachelor of Business Administration degree in marketing, as well as plenty of golf experience to parlay into a pro career.
The number 1 or number 2 player on the team down there, and that's usually a university that's pretty strong depth-wise as far as players are concerned. So it showed that Gordie had the talent to do what was necessary to play on the professional circuit.
Everybody that's playing intercollegiate golf has aspirations to turn pro. Whether they're good enough is another matter. Gordie played intercollegiate golf, and he was way past good enough. And it was just a matter of trying to come up with the money to finance. And it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as it could have been because he had the credentials behind him. He'd won the amateur a number of times. He'd won a whole bunch of other tournaments. He'd won intercollegiately. So you had the playing record to back it up, and the financing was there. And he started off, he won his first pro tournament. So with that money, it was good enough to go on from there.
It wasn't all concentration on the game for Gordie in college. He and his teammates had a bit of fun, too, with the alligators who wandered the Florida courses.
Well, you know how hard Gordie hit the ball? Well, they're playing the USF course, and there's a big alligator, and I mean a big alligator that used to sleep out on this island as part of the golf course. And this thing about 14 feet long, 200 years old, as big around as a Volkswagen. Well, the boys are always sort of taking shots at it. So Gordie this day decides to take a 2-iron, hit it low, and see if he can get this thing's attention. And he hit this 2-iron, just caught it, beautiful, flushed it, hit this alligator right in the side, and all you heard was, and the alligator never even blinked. If that alligator is not going to move on a Gordie Smith 2-iron, he got to be some tough.
Bruce caddied for Gordie in his first Canadian Open in 1987. He remembers fondly a comment from Gordie's playing partner in the second round and the impression Gordie made on another golf great.
He played with Steve Jones. And the reason that's significant is Steve Jones, we're playing along, and Steve Jones shot 66 that day. We're walking up 14, and Jones comes over to me. He says, "Do you work with Gordie?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You got to get this kid some sponsors exemptions." He said, "This kid can play." And I'm looking at this guy who's shooting 66, and 2 years later won the U.S. Open, so he could play, and he knew what golf was about. And he's telling me that Gordie's that good? In Hartford, Gordie's first or second year when he turned pro, he's playing in the Hartford Open. He had qualified, Monday qualified, shot 66 to qualify. He's hitting balls on the range before the tournament, and he's not paying attention. He's hitting balls, so you're focused on that, but there's movement around him, and he sort of ignores it, hits balls, and stops a few minutes later and looks, and Tom Watson is sitting on his golf bag watching him hit balls because he's that impressed with this kid playing. That's how good he was.
We can see now how really good he was. Courtesy of CBC, we have some video of Gordie's performance in the 1988 Canadian Open. This is some of Gordie's final round play right here.
On the 17th green for a birdie putt, Gordon Smith.
Smitty has a long one here. It's well, he's 17 under par for birdie. If he can get this down in 2, I'm sure he'll be pleased. This is a very tough, very difficult hole. Got good speed, hit it.
Oh, all right. Gordo, looking good, feeling sharp.
There you go, Gordie. Hey, I can just see the boys back there at the Brightwood Golf Club saying, "Way to go, Gordon." He jammed it in, nicely done. 8 under par.
Ernie, and there's his caddy, Dan Seafried, urging Gordon Smith home.
In the meantime, we look at the beautiful 18th hole. Gordon Smith from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, who has a great following back there. As we pointed out, he attended the University of South Florida and turned pro in 1985. And he's a 3-time champion of Nova Scotia in the amateur division, so he's been around. He hasn't been a pro that long, just 1985.
Ernie, he's getting all his experience on the Canadian Tour. He's always in contention on the Canadian Tour. He's faced with a shot here of about 110 yards. The greens are perfect. There's a slope about 30 feet before the pin. Gord can shoot it right at the stick. All right, Gordo, stiff one.
He did.
I think he likes what he's looking at. Hang on to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Good juice on that, too, and brought it back. He's got an uphill putt there. He has a very solid chance of being low Canadian here and finishing in the top 10. That'll be great.
Ernie, if you had to place the ball on any spot on this particular green, Gord has the spot. It's uphill with a very slight break, and he's got all opportunities to make this putt to go 9 under par.
On camera, Bobby, he looks a lot bigger than he is. He's not small by any means, 5'10", 175 pounds, just a 30-year-old youngster, he says. He looks a little bigger than he shows, and he has good upper body strength. He has that good move. Hits it very well.
Ernie, I've played with Gordon Smith for the last 2 years, and he can really hit that ball off the tee. I thought possibly he might be able to get one down the fairway.
It's a great hand as he walks along, number 18. As he looks at that one on 18.
Ernie, a lot of the players, they mention how much the fans appreciate good golf, and every time someone makes a great shot, the